PCSP students, in this video I will show you how to complete the exit ticket for the second lesson of Unit 5, making multi-screen apps. So you can click on the exit ticket link by going to the posting on Google Classrooms, and under point 3 there's a link to code.org to finish Puzzle 12, make a chaser game. So that's your exit ticket. So these are the instructions. Our goal is to have 3 separate screens, one for the introduction, which will have a start playing button. Once we click the button, it will take us to the second screen, which hosts our chasing or clicking game. You're trying to click the banana as many times as possible without clicking the background. If you click on the background, you effectively have lost the game, and you'll show the third screen, which is the losing screen, and you'll be able to click a button which will take you back to the beginning screen, and we can just cycle through these as many times as we want. So we have 3 screens in total, a button for starting and a button for resetting the game, and then you'll be able to detect whether you click a banana or you click the background. So that's a combination of 3 screens, 1, 2, 3, 4 event handlers. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make 3 screens. So you need to first click on the Design tab, and what we want to do is we want to make 3 screens total. You can do that by using the Screen button in the Design toolbox, or you can use the scroll down menu and select New Screen. So you'll want to create 3 screens, and then you're going to want to give each of these screens a proper ID. So what we're going to do is we're going to call one screen the welcome screen, and it might look something like this. We'll get to this in a second. You're going to call your second screen the game screen. Then you're going to call your third screen the game over screen. Alright, so now that we've made 3 screens, we'll now need to make all the buttons we need. So let's start with the welcome screen. So this is an example of the welcome screen I made already. The first thing I did was I used a text label and I dragged it onto the screen, and I gave the user some instructions. So this is called welcome to catch the painting objective to click on the painting as many times as possible without touching the background. The second element I have on the welcome screen is the start button, and you can see I labeled it with an appropriate ID. That's called start button. Alright, if you can pause the video now and create these 2 elements, and then unpause the video once you have these 2 elements made. Alright, let's now move on to programming the start button so that the start button takes us to the game screen. We're going to want to switch to the coding section, and what we need to do is grab an on event block, and we need to select the ID of this start button. So my start button is called start button, and if the event is a click on this start button, what we want to do is to set the screen to the game screen so it moves into the game screen. So we're going to, from the scroll down menu, select game screen, and now what this should do is when we start the game and click the start button, it will take us to the next screen. So let's hit run and check out the code and see if it works. So one thing you'll see is this is a different screen than the one I was anticipating. So what I'm going to do at the beginning of my program is make sure that the screen is already set to the welcome screen. There we go. So my screen is automatically set to the welcome screen, and then we have our first event handler for the start button. Shh. All right. So let's the game screen. It does in my case. So let's do the next item, which is to design the game screen. So as you can see here, I have two elements on this game screen. I have the object of my game that I'm trying to catch. In this case, it's a painting. And then I also have a painting as my background. To add these images, all I needed to do is drag the image onto the screen. Once the image is placed, one of the properties I can change is where I select the image. So you're going to select choose image, and you can upload new images from this asset library by clicking upload file, and assuming you have a file saved on your computer, it will load here. So I'm going to delete this image since I don't need it anymore. So what you need to do in total, you need to create two images, so one for the object, and then the other image is going to be the background. So you need two images total. One's the background, and the other one is the target, so I call it, the thing you're trying to click. And the last thing I have is a label that says try to catch the button. So you can pause the video now, create all these three elements, one for the target image, one for the background image, and one for the text label, and make sure you give them all appropriate names. So the next thing we're going to do is add the event handler for catching the button. So under code, I am going to add an event handler for catching the button. Or sorry, for clicking the button. So our event, we want to select the name of this element. In my case, it's called target. And if I click the target, we want to give it a new position on the screen so we can click it again. So what we're going to do is after we click our target, we're going to give the target a new X and Y position on the screen by selecting random number, and the random number for the X can be a number between the dimensions of the X-axis, which is 0 all the way to 320. And then the Y position can be anything from 0 to 440. Since we don't want the image to be fully off the screen, I'm going to subtract about 20 pixels from both of these final parameters. So I'm going to do from about 20 to 300, and then 20 to 420. Great. So let's test our program and see if it works according to the flow of the description. So let's hit run. I hit the start button, and it should take us to the game screen. Does that happen? Great. We're on the game screen. Now, if I click on the target, does it get a new position? Great. That's working. So the next item we have to take care of is what happens if we click on the background instead of the image. If I click on the background instead of the target image, the game should end, and we should see the third screen. So let's program that event handler for the event if we click on the background image. So I'm going to say on event, select the ID, which should be the background image. So for me, it's called background game screen. And if I click on the background game screen, then I should set the screen to the game over screen. So I'm going to select the game over screen. So let's test to make sure that the game over screen works. So, yeah, guys, you know, I'm like filming a video for our class. Okay, so
Hello.
let's see what happens if I click the background. Cool, so it takes me to the game over screen, which is the final part of this video. So in our design tab, your game over screen should include a label and a button. The button needs to ask the player to play again. So you can pause the video, make sure you have both of these elements on the game over screen, which is our third and final screen. The last thing we need to do is make this button, if we click the play again button, to go back to the beginning welcome screen. So let's handle our final event handler, which is if we click the game over button that says play again. For me, I gave this a ID that says reset. So if I hit this reset button, we should go back to the welcome screen. Great. So let me just test the entire program and make sure it works. So I have my starting screen. I lose the game on the first try. And then I get the game over screen. And if I click this reset button, it goes back to the beginning. All right, so that's the second exit ticket. I hope you enjoyed. Over and out.